Hello, and welcome to Up Close and Personal with Inelia Benz. I'm your host, Helene Lipson. For our listeners not yet acquainted with Inelia, she was born in Chile and entered this world directly from source energy without any karmic debt, and she came into this life with a sense of knowingness on a pure mission. Her soul's purpose is to raise the vibrational level of the planet to a critical point that will allow a transitioning into the new paradigm, the new level of awareness for everything, for the planet and everything in it, every rock, every insect, every person. And to do that job, Inelia is a spiritual catalyst, awakening those asleep, helping those already aware to reach a higher vibrational level. And she's even traveled to different geographical areas in various ways for the sake of cleansing it so that the vibration can come through properly. Our Mother Earth is a living, breathing entity vibrating at different frequencies in each geographical location. As a result, the energy or vibrational tone varies from location to location, making some places around the world have a lighter, happier feeling tone than other places that might feel more stifling and oppressive. Today, on Up Close and Personal with Inelia Benz, we'll talk a little bit about Inelia's travels around the world to various places and the energy that exists there. Hello, Inelia.
Hi, Helene.
Hi. So we're talking about places you've traveled to and the vibrational frequency resonating there. I know you were born in Chile and you've moved to various places around the world. My first question for you today is, what is the highest vibrational place with the highest vibrational energy or feeling tone that you have lived?
Yeah, that's really interesting because I couldn't really say that any one place is more high vibrational than another, personally speaking, though. However, I have noticed that if a person resonates with a location, wherever they are in their life, that location will be more supportive to them and they will feel more comfortable there in their reality than in another location. So, although I have gone, I think you may be referring to power vortexes, right, around the planet, locations that are very powerful in energy. And those locations, they are often wide open, so the power is very powerful and very, very strong coming in, the chi, the energy coming in or through or in a vortex there. What often happens is then that those locations have been made sacred by different cultures and kept quite clean. But in modern days, you have people often search for and look for those locations. And what I find is that those particular locations, it appears that the veil is thinner, so you are able to sense more, see more. And they often also have a very funny little quirk is that many people want to move and live there. But when they get there, the location will either completely, or it feels like it completely embraces them and supports them, or spits them out. So they can't stay there on a long-term basis. And that's based on their purposes. The person's location really supports them if they're at the same vibrational level or that resonates with them. And there's no judgment in that. For example, a little while ago, I mentioned that in another interview, I mentioned that I lived in Nottingham, in England, and the neighborhood where I lived was one of the most violent ones in all of Europe. It was very violent, very dark, very, very low vibrational neighborhood. And we moved there because my mother was in that space. She was in a very, very low vibrational space, and she was the head of the family. She moved us there, and she was in a hugely long and deep depression while she lived there. which reflected very nicely with the environment. But for me personally, although the place was really ugly as far as I was concerned, I never saw any violence. I never experienced it. I would read about it in the newspapers the next day, but I never personally experienced it myself as a being, right? I was never attacked. Even though sometimes I would walk home really late at night, I never saw it. I never experienced it. So yeah, the location, vibrationally speaking, does vary, but how comfortable the person is there really depends on the person. Really depends on whether that person can resonate at that level.
So has any environment that you have been in, have you felt like it was, as you said, spitting you out? Is it chew you out? What was the phrase? Chew you up and spit you out? Or were you
Yeah,
just pushed along? Where were you pushed out, or where did you feel that you couldn't remain?
that's really funny. I was about 4 years old and I was in Chile at the time, where that's where I was born. And I was tiny. I was really tiny, and we lived up on a hill in the suburbs of Valparaiso in Chile. And I was one side of the yard. You could look down the hill, and then you could see the sea in the distance, really deep and blue. And then you turned around and looked at the other side of the yard, and you could see the Andes, the mountains, right? And I would sit in the yard and I would look at one and wonder was beyond the horizon on the sea. I wanted to become a sailor so I could sail away. And then I would look at the mountains and wonder what was on the other side of those mountains. And I wanted to explore and see what was there. And it was intense. It was like an obsession. I had to leave. I couldn't imagine myself living there for very long. And I went up to my mother once and I said to her, Mom, when are we going to move? Because I really felt that energy that I had to get out. I had to get out.
That's interesting. So you did move shortly after, or
Yes,
a couple of years after.
yes, indeed, I did move. It was about 2 or 3 years later that the military coup happened in Chile, and yes, indeed, we moved around the country and also left for Argentina, so I was able to find out what was on the other side of the Andes.
Mm.
Very young, and my mum would always joke. She kept saying, you caused the coup because you wanted to move. Because when I asked my mum, when are we going to move? She says, we're not going to move. We're going to stay here forever. And I totally freaked out. I thought, we're not going to stay here forever. There's no way that I'm going to live my life here. And I was like 4 years old. I've been here my entire life. It was
Well,
quite funny at the time.
it is. Well, you went from England to Ireland. What
Yes.
was it like in Ireland?
Well, if we go back a little bit, when we actually left Chile, we went to Argentina. So I lived in Argentina for a while. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 years, but we were there for a little while. And then my mother moved to Scotland. She was given refugee status in the UK, and they moved her to Scotland. And I joined her in Scotland. So we lived there for a while as well. Then I moved to Nottingham. That's where I spent a lot of years. And as an adult, I was already married when we moved to Dublin. And yeah, Dublin, Ireland was completely different to England. We might think it's all the same, but the energy was completely and utterly different. And I lived there for about 9 years. I went to college there, Dublin City University, got my degree, and then we moved to Chile. I went back to Chile for 2, 3 years. Lived there. I had to sort out all sorts of family things, properties, and closure for all sorts of things, and then we moved to Spain, and I lived in Spain for a couple of years, 4 years, 2 years in Madrid and 2 years in Seville. And even within Spain, like the two different cities was completely different. Energies between Madrid and Seville are completely and utterly different.
Well, what makes the energies different in one place or the next?
Yeah, it's really subtle. I always felt that one of the reasons why my family moved so often from country to country, from city to city, was because the energies, after you're in a location for a while, they kind of start to seep in and make the programs. You start being programmed in a certain way. That's one of the things that I discovered really young, was that as we moved from one country to another, the reality of the individuals living there was so utterly different to the others, and they all felt that that was the real life, right? That was the real world, and that was the programs that they were living through were the only ones that was reality, and they were just so different to the other ones. And I realized at a very young age that, yeah, our culture, our upbringing, our location really does affect how we experience life, what we think is real and what we think is not real.
Oh, absolutely. So you live in Sacramento, California right now. How is that environment for you?
Sacramento is a really strange location. Nothing ever happens here. It's a very strange city. There's like an energy, a really deep, powerful energy under the ground. But when you look at the city, or when you look at the energies, you get a really big, powerful feeling saying, "Don't look here. Go away or move along. There's nothing happening here." And it's really, really peculiar. And if we think about it, Sacramento is the capital city of California. And California is a very powerful energy location on the planet. So why would they settle the capital city in such a strange location? It's like it's in the middle of nowhere. It floods,
Mm,
and it's really actually quite difficult to get here. So,
yeah, it is actually. It's 2 hours from San Francisco. It's far from LA. You're just kind of in the middle of everything, but there's nothing around you.
right. And it also has a really strange energy. I've had people visiting who come here and they go into the city expecting a city bustling kind of feeling, and it's isolated, it's abandoned type thing.
Wow. Do you see yourself staying for the rest of your life in Sacramento?
No, I've always been very uncomfortable in Sacramento. I don't do well in the heat, and Sacramento gets extremely hot. And it's very flat, and I prefer mountains and high altitudes, and I prefer the sea. I love the sea. The sea is my favorite location on the planet. And there's nothing of that here. It's very flat, there's no sea, it's very hot. And my own house has been extremely supportive. I had a chat with the yard when we moved in, with regards to how it would grow. Now it looks like a jungle, and it's really peculiar because we only water it twice a week. But everything here just grows extremely quickly, just in my yard, really, really quickly. And there's loads of greenery, loads and loads of birds, and it's like a jungle, literally like a jungle. And I don't put any chemicals in the ground at all. But it's highly supportive. The energies are very, very supportive, and that's one of, for example, a supportive energy that comes in directly from Gaia into my life, right? It's my yard that looks like a jungle in the middle of Sacramento.
Wow. Now, I know that you recently did a workshop in Ecuador. What was it like there? I heard that, I don't know, I heard on a YouTube video that Ecuador was to be our new Tibet. Is there any truth to that? And is it a highly spiritual place? Is that an energy vortex?
Oh, I don't know about Ecuador and the New Tibet. I mean, I've heard so many New Tibets. The one that came in the 60s or the 40s was Chile. There was the energy had moved to Chile. And then somebody said it was Peru, and now people are saying Ecuador. So they really don't know where the new center is. I still subscribe to the one in Chile because it came in at the same time as I did. Being egotistical here and saying, yeah, of course it's Chile. And I have connections in Chile who know the actual location and everything that happens there and stuff. And Ecuador is really unique as a location. There are power vortices around Ecuador. The one that I'm familiar with, because not all of Ecuador has power vortexes. It's just they're spread out, right? Just like the states, you can't say the entire state is a power vortex.
Hmm.
And there's one town in Ecuador where I held it was a retreat, and I've had a workshop there last year as well, and I visited a couple more times. It's called Vilcabamba, and it does have a very powerful vortex there. And it is one of those locations that attracts an awful lot of people, very loads and loads of Americans, Europeans, people from Africa, South America, Asia, all sorts of locations are attracted to Vilcabamba, and not many stay. A lot of people go there intending to stay there forever, but they only last a few months and they leave because they can't really stay there. The energy is not compatible, and it's so powerful that it amplifies everything that you have.
So that's interesting. So, in other words, whatever somebody is bringing into one of these high vortex energy areas, they're actually magnifying, so that if they were almost feeling toxic and full of negativity, that would magnify too?
Yes, absolutely, it will.
Okay, so that would
Yeah.
make that a very hard place to be for somebody that was bitter or seething mad or had a grudge or filled with
Absolutely.
wrath. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. And funnily enough, it's not just about geographical locations, it's also individuals. I mean, there's some individuals on the planet that are really high vibrational. And whenever you hang out with them long enough, and there's gurus and enlightened people and all these things, all these individuals, um, if you hang out long enough with them, you will find that too, that everything that you carry with you will be magnified and will become really, really in your face type thing. Like, everything comes out. You shine a light, and then nothing can hide. It comes out to be processed. It comes out to be looked at. It's a huge opportunity. So yeah, there are locations on the planet where you can do that. There's individuals as well that will manifest that for others, and yeah, it's all about. There's even animals. People talk about the white lions in Africa that do a very similar thing. People who spend time with them get transformed. But
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some of these high vortex areas all around the world that you know of?
Well, I know about Vilcabamba. I know about several places in Arizona. There's some here in California, but really, a person can do a little bit of research. I mean, there's Peru, there's Chile, there's India, there's all sorts of locations not so well known in places like China and Japan, the Middle East. So, yeah, I mean, even in Alaska, there's some places too. And really, if a person is looking for that, all they have to do is have the intention to find a location that's high vibrational and very supportive of them. And then they'll start receiving the messages, or a location will pop up continuously in their life. They go visit there, and there it is. But yeah, it's not actually necessary, but it's an experience. Yeah, it's an experience.
Interesting. And now, in closing, I wanted to ask you, I know that you are co creating a global ascension center, and you're actually asking for or drawing to you a piece of land in a certain area that would resonate at a high vibrational frequency and help other people energetically ascend. What are some of the areas that you're looking for property, or that your group or the people that are co-creating with you are seeking?
Well, first of all, everybody's invited. There isn't actually a group. It's very organic. It's a co-creative, collective level, human collective level thing. There isn't a group as such. There's individuals who have become very involved in creating this, and anybody's invited and open to have a look, investigate what we're doing, and join, right? At any level,
Mhm.
even if it's just visualizing the thing. Now, I was requested to start or open the first one here in California to stabilize certain energies here. And there are thousands, literally thousands of possible locations, because it's not about moving into a high vortex area in order to open a healing center, for example. It's not about that at all, even though there is a healing center which is already being opened in a high vortex energy that's going to be connected to the global ascension center. It's going to have the same type of energy of co-creative. It's already been co-created. But the actual Global Ascension Center is going to be any field that where we're going to activate one of these power centers. We're going to create it, right? We're going to get together and join Gaia's conscious energy, source conscious energy, mother sun conscious energy, and us, our physical bodies, and our soul and spirit. We're going to join them in one location and make them like fuse together so that anybody who goes into that field, or eventually there might be a building there, that can, when they go into it, and everybody will be free to go into it and sit in silence and tap into that template so they can do it in their own life. They can feel it in their own physical body, they can bring it into their own life, and then they go out and make another center somewhere else.
Incredible. Incredible. And I know as we're getting ready to close, I wanted to ask if there's anything you wish to add about travel and high energy vortex areas or the earth in general.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who are waking up or have woken up in the past and have been working on a spiritual path, they feel that they don't have a home. They sometimes feel that they can't really connect. And the way to really connect, again, is like to have the intention to have a very supportive environment and allow your physical body to connect with the physical environment. And if you feel very powerfully, very strongly that you have to move away from wherever you are, do it. Move. And if you feel very powerfully that, maybe you should stay where you are, then stay. Gaia really is very efficient at calling individuals to support locations that need stabilizing. So many people who are very high vibrational will go to live in low vibrational locations or very unstable locations geographically to stabilize it, to stay there and stabilize it. But if you feel that that's not your role and you have to move, then do it. Have a look, search, have the intention, and find the location where you can settle in and allow your body to feel at home.
Ah, yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Inelia, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to Up Close and Personal with Inelia Benz. This is Helene Lipson, your host. Till we meet again, love, light, and blessings to all. Namaste.